everyone, welcome back to Medico DIY, and today in this video we'll be talking about the pathogenesis of mitral stenosis. Before talking about mitral stenosis, let's talk about the basic concept of valvular disease. We can say that a valve can either get stenosed or there can be valvular regurgitation. A valve is said to be stenosed when the valve it fails to open fully, so there will be interference in the forward flow of the blood. And we can say that there is valvular insufficiency or there is valvular regurgitation when the valve it fails to close fully, so there will be backflow of the blood. Now let's talk about mitral stenosis. The mitral stenosis, it is a type of valvular disease in which the mitral valve it fails to open fully, so there will be interference with the forward movement of the blood from the left atrium into the left ventricle. And this mitral stenosis, it can occur due to various causes, out of which I have listed a few of the causes of the mitral stenosis. The most common cause of mitral stenosis is the rheumatic heart disease. And other than that, it can occur due to the congenitally. There can be age-related calcification of the mitral valve. The carcinoid tumor can also result in the mitral stenosis. There can be atrial myxoma, infective endocarditis, or the three chambers of the atrium, etc. Out of these, the most important cause which we should remember, which should strike in the mind, is that the mitral stenosis is most commonly caused due to the rheumatic heart disease. Now let's talk about the pathogenesis of mitral stenosis. Whenever the mitral stenosis occurs, either due to any of the causes that we have listed earlier, what happens is that whenever there is mitral stenosis, the more pressure will be required to pump the blood from the left atrium into the left ventricle, since the mitral opening is narrowed. So there will be increased intra-arterial pressure in the left atrium. And ultimately, with the progression of the mitral stenosis, due to the more pressure required to pump the blood from the left atrium into the left ventricle, there will be left atrial hypertrophy, and ultimately it results in left atrial hypertrophy and left atrial dilatation. Whenever there is left atrial dilatation, it predisposes the heart to two conditions: increase the chances of development of the thromboembolism, and there is also increased chances of developing the atrial fibrillation. What happens is that whenever there is left atrial dilatation, there will be abnormal pockets formed in the dilated left atrium, in which there will be abnormal flow of the blood. And in this dilated atrium, there will also be the stasis of the blood. So these two, that stasis of the blood as well as the abnormal flow of the blood in the left atrium, it results in formation of the thrombus. And this thrombus, when it dislodges from its origin, it is known as emboli. And when this emboli enters into the systemic circulation, it can result in infarction of the spleen, infarction of the kidney, lungs, or even CNS, etc. And this was about the atrial dilatation resulting in increased chances of thromboembolism. Also, there is also increased chances of developing of atrial fibrillation. Now, ultimately, what happens is that as the pressure goes on increasing and there is progression of the mitral stenosis, the left atrium cannot completely empty its blood into the left ventricle, so there will be backflow of the blood. So whenever there is backflow of the blood into the pulmonary veins, so there will be increased pressure in the pulmonary veins, so there will be pulmonary venous congestion. And ultimately, due to the backflow of the blood, here this is the lungs, alveoli, simple diagrammatic representation. So whenever there is pulmonary venous congestion and increased backflow of the blood, the hydrostatic pressure in the pulmonary capillaries, it increases. So as the hydrostatic pressure increases, there will be outflow of the fluid from the pulmonary capillaries into the lung tissue. This results in pulmonary edema. Initially, the pulmonary edema is interstitial type, but later on there will also be alveolar pulmonary edema. And the main features of the pulmonary edema is that the patient will have a paroxysmal nocturnal dyspnea, orthopnea, and exertional dyspnea. And the patient will also have cough due to irritation of the lung tissue. And whenever there is erosion of small capillaries, pulmonary capillaries, there will be pink through the sputum. And if somehow the large capillaries are involved or they get damaged or disrupted, then there will be frank hemoptysis also. This was about the main features of the pulmonary edema. And as the pulmonary edema keeps on progression, what happens is that the lungs will try to prevent the pulmonary edema. So it will it will try to prevent the excessive flow of blood from the right heart into the lungs. So this pulmonary arteries, what it does is that it will undergo reactive vasoconstriction. So it will undergo reactive vasoconstriction, and this results in increased pulmonary hypertension in the pulmonary arteries. Whenever there is increased pressure in the pulmonary arteries due to the pulmonary hypertension, the right atrium the right ventricle will have to pump the blood into the pulmonary arteries with more pressure. So the pressure in the right ventricle will be increased. So ultimately this results in right ventricular hypertrophy, dilatation, and there will be right heart failure. And also what happens is that since there will be right ventricular dilatation, the annulus fibrosus will also stretch out, and so whenever it stretches out, there will be tricuspid valve regurgitation. And here, due to the pulmonary hypertension, the pulmonary valves will also not be able to close properly, so there will be pulmonary valve regurgitation also. And since there is increased pressure in the right heart, the blood venous return will not be easily emptied into the right atrium. So what happens is that the blood in the venous return in the face or in the cheeks will not be able to drain easily into the right atrium. So the patient will have chronic arteriovenous anastomosis in the cheeks, resulting in malar flush. And also in the lungs, what happens in the liver, what happens is that since the hepatic veins cannot drain blood into the right atrium, so there will be retention of the fluid in the liver, and this results in hepatomegaly, which is smooth and it is tender. And ultimately there will be exudation of the fluid from the liver capsule, resulting in ascites. Also, as the venous return is not possible, is not easy, so there it will also affect the systemic circulation, and there will be generalized edema. This was about the basic pathogenesis of mitral stenosis. Hope you liked it. Do like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos. Thank you.